Welcome to Business Over a Brew, the show where we talk business with some of the Riverbend's most interesting and influential business leaders, all while enjoying a nice brew at Elijah P's Burgers and Brews in Alton. In this episode, we'll talk to Cass Sheppard of SMS Engineers. He'll tell us about running a fourth-generation business that's been around since the 1890s. So let's get to it. It's the Business Over a Brew podcast from Elijah P's. Well, welcome to Business Over a Brew. We welcome Cass Sheppard from SMS Engineers. Thanks for joining us, Cass.
Thank you, Nick. Yeah, appreciate the invite.
We've been doing this show for a while now, and I wanted to have you on because such a momentous occasion in the history of the business, 125 years, and I thought it'd be a great chance for you to come on and share a little bit about the history of the firm and how it got started, how you got involved. So let's just kind of start with just an overview of the history of SMS Engineers.
Sure, be glad to. Yeah, we're real proud of it, and this year is our 2017 is our 125th anniversary. So started in 1892 by my great-grandfather in Edwardsville. We've kind of always worked in the Madison, St. Clair, Greene, Jersey County, pretty much local area. We are licensed in Missouri and do work over there, but the bulk of our work is over here in Illinois. And so it was, like I said, my great-grandfather started, and of course my grandfather then came into business. They actually didn't have enough work for my grandfather when he graduated from U of I in 1917. So he worked for another engineering firm on some of the infrastructure for the city of Alton, and then gradually came into the firm. And so then, of course, my father, of course, was in it, and now when I graduated in 1981, came into the business also.
So it's obviously quite a bit. Engineering today is a lot different than what it was 125 years ago. What were they doing 125 years ago when they started the business?
So this was a lot of slide rule, a lot of hand drawing, just a lot more intense mental work, if you will, in doing the calculations and doing the surveying. Surveying's the one that's really gone really night and day on the differences in how we operate today. Yeah.
And I'm sure even since you started in 1981,
right.
the technology since then has, obviously changed dramatically since then. How's that impacted the business?
Sure. Well, now where we might have had, more employees, we've actually now we're paying for software, we're paying for hardware for essentially the computerized end of it to function, and a lot of that work now you can just sit down at a workstation and and calculate things out that may have taken you 2 or 3 guys to do a whole project in the past.
So did you know I know you worked in the business from a young age, is that always what you planned on doing, was to be a part of the firm? Yeah,
sure. I started when I was in actually early high school, summers. And no, it wasn't. I'm a huge mechanical fan. Mm-hmm. At the time, back then it was mini bikes, motorcycles, go-karts, and graduated into cars when I got my license, of course. And still, I'm just a huge, I just love mechanical things. So I thought to myself, it's a lot of fun. I love to do that. It's always something interesting with the mechanic work, but here I've got this business. It's almost like, waiting for me. I'd be a fool to pass it up. So,
right.
Yeah.
And if I read correctly, you actually were a physics major at Monmouth, is that right?
That is good. You did your homework.
I did some research on this one.
Excellent. And kind of that same aspect. That's what took me into physics, is just the physical nature, mechanical nature of how things work has always been an intrigue and an interest of mine. So that then evolved into going down to University of Missouri-Rolla and graduating from there with my bachelor in engineering.
So tell us about growing up in the family and around the business. If I had to guess, you were probably a tinkerer and toys like that and things like that. So tell us about growing up around the firm.
So, from an early age, I'd hear stories of my grandpa taking my dad with him to do some of the surveying. And my grandfather had both his professional engineer and professional surveying license, so he did a lot more surveying than my dad did, but he always needed a helper out in the field. And one of the early ones is they were doing some of the surveying for Watauga Bluff subdivision up there off the River Road. And packed a lunch. It was a Saturday. It was a good chance for Grandpa to show Dad what the business was. And packed a lunch, like I said, and did a little campfire. And next thing you know, they're grilling away, and things start. The fire progresses a little bit more than what they thought. Instead of the rest of the day's survey, they were putting out a fire in the woods out there. So different things like that are just really good moments that we talk about.
It seems like it would be a lot of pressure to be a fourth, a lot of responsibility on you to be fourth generation and now in charge of the firm. Is that the case, or does it not feel that way to you? Or?
No, it's a good observation. In my dad's family, he had 3 sisters, and so this is at that age, or that generation, I should say, just a lot of women didn't go into professions such as engineering, and in fact, there's still a need for women in
Sure.
both surveying and engineering. So, but anyway, there was really, he was the only son in that family, so it was just kind of given that he would take over.
Right.
My generation, I had 3 sisters, and so it was kind of a given that I would take over. And so, it was always there. It was never, shoved down my throat. But by the same token, like I said, you just weigh all those opportunities and things, and you say, boy, this is really, if I'm the least bit interested in this,
right,
I can certainly find a venue in there that would interest me. So.
Well, from the outside looking in, it strikes me as still a real family business, and seemingly you treat the employees and all your team members that way too. Is that part of the philosophy that's made you successful?
It definitely is. You're right up the street from us, so you see us
right, yeah.
go every
Y'all
day.
look happy going into work.
We have 23 employees, and they're just the greatest folks you can imagine. And we've tried to pick those employees, and they've stayed with us. Some have come and gone, but it's just been an evolution thing. And the ones we have now, we just try and foster that good work ethic. We reward them for what they do, and it isn't always in a salary. It's a lot of times it's a pat on the back and a job well done that people enjoy here.
What are some of the biggest challenges you face today compared to maybe, I think it was 2001 when you took charge? What are some of the challenges today, 16 years, 17 years later?
I always wondered in school, the classes, all technical, all pretty much getting you geared in for that.
Right.
But sure would have liked to have a adult psychology class in there, because one of the challenges is, trying to figure people out, and as a client, and me as the guy they're coming to, what are they looking for? What do they really need, and what services can we help them with, and what are some of the things that we could maybe need to get a sub-consultant for, and things like that. But just the trying to get people's personality and figured out, and run that job down that path, and get them some of the results they're looking for.
You've been an important member of the Riverbend business community for a while now. What are some of the strengths you see of our community in terms of doing business here in the Riverbend?
Sure. Well, obviously, just the beautiful scenery and terrain. I can't tell you how many folks I have say, boy, I was driving up Henry Street, or I was in,
right,
in one of the older parts of town, and there's some beautiful homes there. And you kind of take that aspect of it for granted too, is that a lot of treasures.
Right.
I know the old Bluff City Brewery area back there behind Fast Eddie's. You know, a lot of people don't know some of that history and what
Sure.
some of the structures back there. The old homes, the old businesses and whatnot along Broadway and up some of the business corridors are just you know, really strengths I think that we have here. You know, we start to improve the roadways and the infrastructure, get access in and out. Those things always help, and they're always a good part of business growth. But you know, the people we have here and some of the unique structures, I think, are a real treasure.
And you guys have been instrumental in a lot of those. For those viewers that don't know, talk about some of the projects that you're really proud of that you've done around the Riverbend area.
Sure, absolutely. So as a surveying firm, we, you know, anything from a lot survey for your home site to topographic, to larger surveys, large tracts of ground. And then the civil aspect that we do is roadways, sewers, water lines, stormwater, wastewater treatment plants, and water treatment plants. In that realm, there's a number of projects in the area that we really are proud of, and probably the biggest one is the Alt Marina and the different phases that went into that riverfront area, which was actually you know, part of the I mean, the city really stepped up, but the federal government and from the Corps of Engineers, when they abandoned the lock and dam in that location and moved it downstream, provided a stream of money for some of those improvements. And so Alton really took advantage of that, and now I think we have just a really beautiful riverfront down there and associated areas.
Right. Well, you guys have been a real asset to the business community and just the community in general here in the Riverbend, and thanks for coming on, and congratulations on 125 years.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Thank you,
guys.
Nick.
Appreciate it.
Take care.